Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host, Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, JBizTechPhilly.com. And as you can see here now, columnist for the Jewish Press.
And Rabbi, I'm having a lot of fun doing all of that. And my column, the Albany Beat, talks about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. And with us today is someone who heads up a government agency, I guess you would call it, the colony police chief, a new colony police chief, I should say, Jonathan Teale. So, Chief Teale, welcome to the Jewish View.
No, thank you, and good afternoon, Rabbi.
It's about a year that you're in.
Just about 10 months now.
Yeah, that's close enough to a year.
It's been a very busy year.
You have been through the ringer. You're probably saying, why did, Steve Hyder was your predecessor, you're probably saying, Steve, what'd you do to me?
I think he planned it to leave it this time.
So some of you had a lot of, I guess, more tragedies than normal.
The colony, you really should be, you would, when it comes to my mind, I don't know statistics, but nice, safe, beautiful area.
It is the safest town in America, right?
Really?
It was a few years ago, 2 years in a row. It's still one of the safest in New York State. No matter what community you're in, tragedies happen.
Right.
And this past year for us, not only, we had a lot of challenges. We had a lot of officers retire, so we went through a hiring process for officers, for dispatchers, for clerical staff. And in the middle of all that, we also had some major cases. And I'm very happy with my people that we're able to get through it and resolve these cases. And I'm very proud of our community. They really stuck together and helped us out.
How many officers do you have, aside from civilian, how many officers do you have on your force?
Good thing that you ask. As of this Thursday, we're going to be hiring 6 more, and that will bring our number up to 112.
And what is your max?
That will be the maximum I believe we've been at in the last 25 years.
Okay. So are you comfortable with that number, or do you feel that you need more?
I could use
more, right?
I don't think any chief around the country would say he wants less officers,
no, not fewer officers, but
realistically, we're very close to an optimal number. I did a staffing survey for the previous chief a few years ago, and the number we came up with at the time was 115 officers. It would allow us to fully utilize all the units we have within the department and take care of the needs of our community. And we're getting pretty close to that. Obviously, in today's finances with the municipalities, it's very tight. We try to be very resourceful with our funds. And recently, we've worked on some collaborative efforts with the City of Albany and Albany County.
Such as dispatching, right?
Yeah, we started a radio project with Albany County and the City of Albany about 4 years ago. And right now, certain elements of it are coming online.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, the city, the town, and the county got together and looked at what assets we all had, whether it was the colony's core system or it was Albany County's ability to get a lot of grant funding. And the City of Albany had a lot of 800 FCC radio licenses. So we worked together. The county was able to get a grant. We built off the colony system, and now everybody in this area can run off this system. Very soon, we hope to work more with Saratoga County and hopefully eventually Rensselaer County. So now first responders in the Capital District will be able to have true interoperable communications.
And you also, Town of Colony also borders Schenectady and then the town of Guilderland.
Yes, we're right in the middle between also Schenectady, Albany, and Troy.
But why not? Why are you going towards Saratoga and Rensselaer, and why not, Schenectady and Guilderland also?
Oh, we'd love to work with everyone.
I know.
But right now, I believe
what are the impediments to moving in that direction also?
I think there needs to be some more infrastructure in place towards the Schenectady end. Right now, the system does cover a fair amount of Schenectady, but because we don't have any towers in that area, there would be some large areas of no reception.
Right.
That's something that I think they're interested in. We would certainly like to help them out.
Is that a pine bush issue?
No, I think it's more of a topography issue once you get into the city of Schenectady and the river area.
I see. To the low.
So you're talking about, efficiency in police work is also an efficiency with money. Would be less dispatchers.
Actually, we're It's not going to affect how the town of Colony dispatches. We have 83,000 people at night, about 200,000 people during the day. So we're very active. So we really want to keep our own 26 dispatchers to dispatch for us. But we're working with the city of Albany and the county of Albany to build in some redundancy. So if the city's center, or particularly the county's center in Voorheesville, caught fire or hit by a tornado, we're pretty close to having them come in and walk into our building, sit down at a computer terminal, log in, get into the radio system, and dispatch those county units, and no one would know the difference, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. That type of redundancy no one had before.
It's important.
It's very important. We're also saving a lot of money.
You don't hear that with redundancy, that you save money. I mean, they inherently
you don't.
Seems like
and that's why
oxymoron.
This is one of these win-win projects where, okay, we're getting better technology, and it's going to cost less going forward. Okay, where's the downside? There really isn't.
Right.
So with that, some of that savings, my town supervisor, Paul Mahan, and our town board and comptroller I've worked with, and we're using some of that money to hire new officers. Mm-hmm. So my budget will be relatively flat, yet I'll have more officers than we did a year ago.
Mm-hmm. So
that's excellent. Like you say, it's a win-win.
What's the civilian staff?
I have 26 civilian dispatchers, and I probably have another dozen clerical positions with some animal control officers, and we have some part-time crossing guards. So all told, probably around 160 employees.
I mean, really your population is fairly, we had Paul Mahan, like you just mentioned, on our TV show. We practically had every politician in the Capital District and beyond on our television show. So I'm getting to be civic-minded over here. I know everybody's business. But really, their population is similar to Albany. But what would be the crime rate? I would assume, just looking at Albany, it's
15,000 more in Albany than there is in Colony.
Yeah, but that's kind of a
population.
It's a similar number, but the demographics and the density, population density, is much different. Albany obviously is mostly urban. There are some suburban areas once you get into outlying areas. Colony has a mix of some urban areas, largely suburban, and some rural areas.
Well, but you don't have anything like an Arbor Hill or South End equivalent of that in the town of Colony.
No, we don't. No. But in this day and age, with the mode of transportation, somebody can be from Arbor Hill to Loudonville in 35 seconds.
But you know what? I always was amazed about how, being a guy from Brooklyn and when I first came up here, about how Arbor Hill and Loudonville could butt up against each other, and Arbor Hill, never goes across that bridge it's like you go across that bridge and all of a sudden it's a whole new world.
It's different. There's no doubt about it. Going in either direction.
I mean, it's just amazing how, you got this
but
harsh...
you see that in Brooklyn too then, Mark. I've seen it over here. You have like a railroad or a subway station, and one side is, beautiful, and the other side looks like a little bit down in the dumps.
Show me the beautiful side.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen that yet.
In Brooklyn?
I grew up in Mill Basin, and aside from that being beautiful, I haven't seen
well, some of that is the way the region is developed, historically. Some of the major roadways, they put in I-90, that kind of separates some areas. When they put in 787, that cut off a lot of neighborhoods from the river. Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing happens when you have different transportation projects occur. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of takes on a life of its own after that.
Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Colony.
Yeah. And did you ever think you'd be in law enforcement? When someone asked you as a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or you haven't grown up yet? Or?
Some of both. At least I like to think that. When I was younger, I thought about it. And then eventually I decided, I should take a civil service test and just keep my options open.
But is that what you wanted?
And I was very happy I did choose it. I love to be outdoors. I love to do different things every day. And police work is one of those things where you can deal with people, you can help people, yet you're doing different things every day.
Being a reporter is the same thing. I like being outside, doing different things every day. And
now I'm behind the desk.
and I feel like a journalist. I'm helping people.
That's important. That's important.
So I don't have a badge, though. Or maybe a gun. No, nothing like that. Do you have gun violence, a problem with, like, for example, in Arbor Hill, I was mentioning, I hate to keep harping on that, but they have like the community guns spread out under, you know what I'm talking about with community guns?
It's everywhere. We don't particularly have community guns. The people we are arresting right now with unregistered or stolen handguns are typically from the surrounding cities, whether it be Schenectady, Troy, Albany. And we're arresting them for other offenses. They're dealing heroin, vehicle and traffic stops. We'll smell some marijuana in the car. They'll do a quick search of the car and find a handgun. It's been probably almost about 1 a month now.
Do you think that marijuana should be legalized for adult use?
I think there needs to be a lot more studies done. And the reason I say that is because I can remember as a kid the debate was, oh, it's no worse than alcohol. Well, maybe so, but it does affect a person. And would you want somebody driving down the highway stoned out of their mind, driving next to you while you're in your van with your kids? And then the next step is, if it does affect them, how do you detect that? Are there scientific testing devices right now that could determine how much is too much somebody's had to smoke? I don't know. I think there's some real scientific issues that need to be sorted through, and I think anything like this needs to be thought through before we jump into it.
Where'd you go to college?
I just went to Hudson Valley here in Troy.
You got an associate's?
I do, yes.
And no bachelor's?
No, I stopped right there. I always thought about going back, but once I get involved in police work, my focus was, doing the next thing, making the next step, becoming a detective, and so forth.
I see from your hand you're married.
I am, yes.
You have how many kids?
One.
One kid?
I do.
Girl, boy?
I prefer not to get into that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The idea
Sorry
that
about
there's
that.
so
That's
many
okay.
shopping centers that that's Colony, isn't it, the Wolf Road area?
Yes.
Traditionally, it has been, Wolf Road is Colony. There was Latham Circle Mall, Latham Farms, all these large retail outlets that have come in. There's an awful lot of office complexes now, and there's also been traditionally some manufacturing in Colony. Part of the old Norton Company, which is St. Gobain, is in Colony, and some of the other manufacturing sites, such as the old Altec Steel, and some of these others were all in Colony also.
Well,
But
you
talk
talked
just
about
saying-
St. Cobain. Have you been testing your water?
It's scary, it really is. It really
I'm
is.
just saying that maybe because of the shopping centers, it's like more crime of shoplifting. You get a lot of that.
We certainly do. We arrest about 3,000 people a year, and a lot of them are for either shoplifting, domestic-related offenses, traffic-related offenses, and drug offenses.
In Bethlehem, I don't know if you ever deal with Chief Corsi.
I do.
but They had a big issue when they wanted to put the Walmart in on Route 9W. And that, police force has got to increase, and they're going to be, it's going to cost the taxpayers money, and it won't offset the revenue from Walmart, and da-da-da-da. Do you have similar concerns in Colony?
We do. We're running about 75,000 incidents a year just from the police side. There's another roughly 25,000 between fire and EMS calls. And by the way, we dispatch for 12 volunteer fire departments and the paid Colony EMS crews. So that also falls under the police department. So we're very busy. And anytime you have an increased population, demand for services are going to increase. We do about 3,000 accidents a year also, or more. So there's a lot of activity going on when you have 200,000 people going through Colony every day.
How many women are on your force?
Right now, as of this Thursday, we'll be hiring our 8th.
8 that you have on the force now?
Yes, which is the most we've ever had.
There's more women in the assembly, elected assembly members who are women than ever before too. So I guess women are taking.
Well, we're very proud of our whole hiring process.
I'm seizing. I couldn't even get the words out. Okay. I wanted to ask you. I had a fender bender in Colony. Your officer. It was a woman who came over, and she was very nice, very friendly,
Good.
very helpful, and Can I remember her name? No. Had she been annoying and...
You would remember then.
I would have been remembering her name. But anyway, that was my only, well, maybe not. No, I had something, the Northway. I was stopped on the Northway once. I went to the...
We
court
want the chief to
system.
take care of you
No,
over here.
it's long
Right
gone,
on
it's
the
long gone, but I got to know the judicial system. And I mean, there are a lot of people that go through the courts in Colonie.
Our court is extremely busy.
Yeah.
Again, we arrest a lot of individuals every year. There's a civil side of the court for lawsuits with tenants and landlords, civil disputes. So an
What
awful
about
lot.
the Northway? I mean, is that a big speeding trap or?
Predominantly, we don't. One of our primary job is not to enforce the speed limit on the Northway.
The troopers do that.
The troopers will. Our resources we devote to what's going on within our community. Are we on the Northway all the time? Absolutely, we are. We're stopping people and arresting people, but that's not our focus. That's
What about dashboard cameras in civilian cars? Is that a good idea? Is that something that?
well, that's interesting. You mentioned that. I want to say last year we had a fatal accident on Route 7 in Colonie, and the motorist who was not at fault had a dashboard board cam, and that really showed everything.
That he
Not-
wasn't,
that he was not at fault. However, there's some things that you may not want to see.
Of course, no, I mean, but you have no control, it's not like you're pointing the camera any which
No.
way, I mean, it's just there in front of you.
And that's part of our society these days. Almost any store you go in, there's a camera.
No, but is it helpful in terms of proving that when someone cries police brutality, that there wasn't police brutality?
Oh, for being like a police dashboard cam.
Or a civilian dashboard cam
It
that
certainly can.
would, you know,
It's certainly, that's one of the first things we do if we have a complaint against an officer or a major event, or even, you know, a serious traffic accident. We want to see, is there any video
what
of
about
a
body
surrounding?
cameras?
We tested several out, by different manufacturers, and we talked with our union PBA, and I think generally they like the idea because they understand it protects them.
Sure.
There's a lot of studies around the country. A few of them show that complaints against officers go down significantly. And interestingly enough, some of the studies also show that the use of force by officers goes down.
That's right.
So do I think it's a good
They
idea?
have to think twice about being more aggressive. The officers have to think twice about being aggressive.
Sure. But part of the problem with that is, if you talk to any large agencies around the country, is the back end. How long do you store the data?
Oh.
If you store it for years, that's a huge amount of storage space.
Put it on a hard drive,
You can, but you're talking,
external hard drive, they come,
when you calculate the hours of video and how big those files are,
all right, here's what you do. You talk to a TV station who has to keep all their videos and how they catalog it, and
there's ways to do it, obviously.
There are obviously easy ways to reference it and to
It's
do
also
it.
expensive, though.
Talk to a TV station.
Well,
about
that's a
how
good
they do
idea.
it, because they're obviously cash strapped. Every station's cash strapped, and they're always trying to do things on a.
But they're, as far as I know, not required by state statute
No.
to maintain
But
certain
they-
files
but
where
here's-
we are.
Right, but here's a private entity that you're close with anyway, so you can, doesn't hurt to have a conversation, see if it helps you.
How long do you guys keep it?
What?
How long do you guys keep the video?
I keep it forever. In fact, I just put this up on YouTube, and the shows are there forever. And
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know, we have a few
But I-
half hours a week, and we don't have
Yeah,
24 hours
But
a
even
day.
when I was, even in the 80s, when I was a reporter, I had cassettes, and I never erased a cassette. I have boxes and boxes of
Yeah,
cassettes.
Mark, but what he's saying is, look at the number that you have
I know
compared
that.
to
I know.
an officer
Just
24 hours a day.
in consulting with our IT people
Yeah.
and other, even manufacturers of the cameras, they're telling us the same thing. They're basically pointing us towards cloud-based
Yeah,
storage,
yeah.
which is a great idea, but then you're still looking at a cost. And at some point, if everybody switches to a cloud-based storage, is that going to drive up the price? But that's just one issue. Another issue is that a lot of the state statutes really haven't dealt with this yet. And another issue is a privacy issue. If the police are called to your home or family member's home for an incident, do you want that officer coming into your house with a video camera on, potentially videotaping your children, your other family members? There's a lot of issues there that really should get resolved.
The ACLU, the Civil Liberties Union, is be all up in arms.
I think there's some legitimate concerns there, no matter what your political flavor is. There's some privacy issues that should be decided either by the courts or by the legislature. I think some states actually have made police video not foilable, if you will.
Yeah.
So for that very reason. So if an officer does respond to a domestic and he does pick up images of some juveniles, that's not plastered all over YouTube.
Right. And you put it on in the evidence locker like everything else, and hopefully you won't get lost, or that you can catalog it the right way.
And that's another thing. Typically, we use DVDs, and okay, at some point they do degrade. So now we're into having to manage these video systems.
Now the cassettes degrade.
Everything degrades.
It's,
all of us do.
Yeah, all of us do. Yes, that's true. What do you had these Colony Police Department awards that you?
We did. Every year, usually in May, during Police Week, we have typically done our award ceremony. It's great to recognize all the hard work that our men and women do. This year, we gave out the most awards for gun arrests we've ever done.
You honored 26 officers and 2 civilians this year?
Yes.
Okay. And we can't go through all the names, but congratulations to them.
And they've done an outstanding job. We had several life-saving awards. We've had some of our officers recognized by the Red Cross, recently by Albany Medical Center, I believe, for life-saving.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of our job is being a first responder.
Well, you probably enjoy those ceremonies than any other type of ceremonies.
I do.
It's incidents that you've been in. So.
In the last year, that's probably been one of the better ceremonies I've attended.
Yes. Tell us about some of the problems and the downside that you faced this year.
In any organization, you're going to come across
Well, you had an officer.
Issues with your own people, personnel issues. Not just the serious tragic event we had with one of our officers, but we have routine issues with employees, they're people, they make mistakes.
Right.
So that is a big part of any organization.
You know what, when you hear that I don't want to compare it to this directly, it's sort of an indirect analogy, but you know how you hear about like Jeffrey Dahmer and you say, oh, he was such a nice guy, he used to say hello to me, he walked down the street, yada, 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 he was so friendly, I never would have suspected that. And then all of a sudden, did you have that feeling about Israel Roman, that, he was such a nice guy, you would never expect that?
In my personal knowledge of him, as well as discussing it before and after the fact with other officers, no one expected this of him. He seemed like a hardworking family man who was a good officer. And obviously it was a horrific, tragic event. And we asked the state police to take over the investigation.
Because you were too close to it.
And we needed it to be transparent. We needed our community to know that the Colony Police Department was going to be open and transparent, so there was no question about what happened here. And on the other part of that is there were, and there are, a lot of officers who are deeply emotionally invested in this type of incident. We just met recently with the state police, and I can't say enough good things about them and what they've done. They've left no stone unturned. But to date, there is nothing out there that tells us why. And that's the big question, why? We know what happened.
Well, tell us what happened.
He killed his wife and his 10-year-old, and he soaked the house with gasoline or some other accelerant, and he took his own life. Before that, he set fire to the house. And all three were found together.
Right.
So that's it in a nutshell.
And he went to see his son, right?
He did. We have a full timeline of the activities. There's no missing times. I would prefer that the state...
He seemed like he was caring, like he knew his son was at a game. He went and gave his son money.
Give him some money.
And he said, you know, his son must be beside himself. I mean, I just can't imagine what sort of therapy someone like that could go.
Yeah, I can't imagine either. And again, I would defer to the state police who ran the investigation, any of the details.
Yeah.
But they have gone through all the financial records, all the phone records, all the computer records.
Well, I
They've
feel like I
interviewed
can ask
everybody.
you about this because you're not dealing with the investigation. It's more of a personal issue. And that's why I feel I could talk to you about
Well,
this.
you can, and you can. And I'm certainly here to answer questions for the community on this. It was a very difficult thing for our department to go through. Thankfully, we had sent several officers to training to deal with this, to a critical incident training. We actually had a debriefing afterwards, and we had many officers attend. I think that helped a lot.
A lot of tears?
There was a lot of emotion. There is and was a lot of support from our community. We had families in restaurants bringing food in, sending letters in, you know, expressing their sympathy, and you know, saying, you know, terrible things happen, you know, all around the world, and we understand. So it was good to see that, and
it really struck me how caring he was for his other son, that he knew he was leaving him to be orphaned in a sense, and then, you know, he still kept him in mind, and he had enough.
There are still a lot of questions. There will always be that question, why?
You know, it's just,
and we can't answer that. I don't know if we will ever be able to.
right. But then you go and he, you know, sets the house on fire and then kills himself, and he lays down with his wife and child. I mean, to think that what goes through I mean, it's hard enough for me to think what goes through someone's mind when they commit suicide. What goes through someone's mind when they can go through this and just...
There was no justification to take his life of his wife and child, none.
Yeah, but you also had a question or a case about this woman who was a hairdresser, and she was brutally killed in her beauty parlor, Jackie Pareca. And
Yes.
You have that case being wrapped up.
We made arrests on that case.
Right.
We're actually going through some hearings on it right now, so I don't want to get out any specifics.
But when this happened, did you ever think that even in a smaller town like Colony that you would ever find two individuals amongst hundreds of thousands of people?
It was an extremely difficult and challenging case. And again, we had a lot of support from the community. I, as well as several other officers, would drive around and talk to people after the fact on those roads and neighboring roads. And it was a common, you know, topic. Everybody was concerned. Everybody wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Everybody offered whatever information they had. The community really came together over that. And I think there's some fundraising going on right now also.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, again, that was, how many other, is this the job that you always thought it would be when you were deputy, right?
I was deputy chief, yeah.
Under Steve Hyder.
Yes.
Did you ever think that this was the job that was the job you had always wanted, and are you living the dream now? Or?
I'm very happy to be here, obviously. It is a very challenging job. Did I ever think I was going to be chief of police? No. When I was a younger officer, I really loved going out there and trying to solve a case, catch the bad guy, and help people. I think it's all very important. And then, you know, through the years, as I worked my way up, I always kept saying, geez, you know, if I was ever chief, I'd do this one of these days, or I'd do that. And, you know, that time is now, so I get to hopefully make some changes for the better, to work with my own staff. And I have a lot of really good people in our department that I'm very proud of, that are very intelligent and, you know, like to work on these major projects. And we really go through a very selective process to hire new officers. We train a lot. We had the DEA provide us with some funding through a grant to upgrade our range and to a moving target system. This is something that can improve an officer's, you know, decision to shoot or don't shoot, hopefully to make a more informed decision quickly. And we share that range with other agencies in the area.
That's
So,
great.
just one of these many collaborative projects we're working on. We just started another project
We always talk about those moving targets.
about 2 months ago, again with Albany County, and this time with Saratoga County and Rensselaer County. And I mentioned Lou Corsi from Bethlehem, and some other agencies in Saratoga County. We put together, hopefully, another consortium, or at least some agreements to start sharing some data.
Okay.
And this is, and again, we're going to look at purchasing, we're in the process of purchasing new systems to store that data, to share that data. And for us, it's going to save us another $100,000 a year. So my hope is I can ask for another officer.
Okay.
That way I can keep my budget neutral, and the people in the town of Colony, get more officers, they get more bang for their buck, so to speak.
And keep to the speed limit.
All right, Mark, stay out of trouble. That's all we have
Stick to
to
the
say.
speed limit more.
Listen, Chief, we're out of time, and you're doing great work. You went through the ranks, and you have some good ideas, and good for the people of Colony, and really people of Albany County as you integrate systems. So keep going and do it with good health.
Continued success, yes.
Thank you very much.